Thanks for clicking on this video. I really appreciate you being here. If you enjoy the story, consider subscribing and feel free to like the video or drop a comment below. It really helps the algorithm recommend these videos to you and to others who might enjoy them too. Either way, thanks for giving it a chance, and I hope it pulls you in. I was asleep when my phone started screaming. Not ringing, screaming. That emergency alert sound that makes your heart jump into your throat. I fumbled for it in the dark, expecting an amber alert or maybe a flash flood warning. We get those sometimes in the summer. The message on the screen made me read it 3 times before my brain would process the words. Extreme emergency. Atmospheric structural failure detected. Seek lowest interior shelter immediately. This is not a drill. I sat there in bed, staring at it. Atmospheric structural failure. What the hell did that even mean? The atmosphere doesn't fail. It's just air. I thought maybe it was a hack, some elaborate prank. Russian hackers or bored teenagers. Then my phone buzzed again. Same message. Then again. Every phone in my apartment building started going off at once. I could hear them through the walls, a chorus of emergency alerts singing in the darkness. I grabbed my laptop and checked social media. My feed was exploding. Everyone in Leland was posting the same thing. Screenshots of the alert, confusion, jokes. Some people were already panicking. I turned on the TV. Every channel showed the emergency broadcast system. That colored bar's screen with the awful tone. But then the local news cut in, and I'll never forget the look on the anchor's face. Her name was Jennifer Park, and I'd been watching her do the morning news for years. She always smiled, always professional. She wasn't smiling now. Her face was white, and her hands were shaking as she held the papers in front of her. We're being told to advise everyone to seek shelter immediately, she said, her voice cracking. Underground if possible, basements, subway stations, anywhere below ground level, the National Weather Service is reporting. They're reporting that the troposphere is collapsing. The camera cut to the meteorologist. He looked like he'd been crying. I should have stayed inside. I know that now. But I had to see for myself. I pulled on jeans and a shirt and went outside. The street was full of people. Mrs. Rush from next door was standing on her lawn in her bathrobe, staring up at the sky. The Hendersons, the college kids from the end of the block. Everyone looking up. The sky looked normal, dark, scattered with stars. A few clouds drifting past the moon. But something was wrong. I could feel it. The air felt heavy, thick, like trying to breathe through a wet towel. The bird stopped singing, Mrs. Rush said. She didn't look at me, just kept staring up. About an hour ago, all at once. I looked around. She was right. No crickets chirping, no distant sounds of traffic, just an awful, pressing silence. Look at the clouds, someone said. One of the Henderson kids, I think. They're not moving. He was right. The clouds were frozen in place, like a photograph, not a breath of wind. I took a deep breath and immediately regretted it. My lungs felt like I'd just climbed a mountain. The air was thin, wrong, and I could see my breath misting in front of me, even though it was July and still warm enough that I was sweating. My phone buzzed again. Do not go outside. Atmospheric compression in progress. We should get inside, I said, but nobody moved. We all just stood there, staring up at a sky that looked normal but felt like it was about to fall on our heads. Mrs. Rush was the first to go back inside. Then the others, slowly, reluctantly. I stayed a moment longer. I don't know why. Maybe I thought if I looked hard enough, I'd see what was wrong, understand it. But the sky kept its secrets. I went back to my apartment and turned on every news channel I could find. They were all saying the same thing in different words. The atmosphere was collapsing inward, compressing. The space between the ground and the edge of space was getting smaller. Nobody knew why. Nobody knew how. They just knew it was happening, and it was happening everywhere. New York, Los Angeles, London, Tokyo. The whole world watching the sky fall in slow motion. I tried to call my sister Emma. She lives in Fairview, about 2 hours north. The call wouldn't go through. I tried again. Nothing. The cellular networks were overloaded, or maybe already down. Emma was all I had left. Our parents died in a car accident when I was 25. She's 3 years younger than me, and we've always been close. The thought of not knowing if she was okay made my chest tight. I looked around my apartment. Studio, 1 room, no basement. If the sky was really falling, this was a death trap. I made a decision. I had to get to Emma, had to know she was safe. And if the world was ending, I didn't want to die alone. I packed a bag, changes of clothes, water bottles, the food I had in my pantry, grabbed my car keys, took one last look around my apartment, and somehow I knew I'd never see it again. The last thing I did before I left was look at the sky one more time. I stood in my doorway and looked up. It was closer. I don't know how I knew, but I knew. The sky was pressing down, and we were all running out of room to breathe. I got in my car and started driving. Highway 47 was chaos. Some people were fleeing the cities, cars packed with everything they could carry. Others had just abandoned their vehicles in the middle of the road and run. I had to swerve around a minivan sitting empty with its doors open, engine still running. The radio was a nightmare of static and broken emergency broadcasts. I caught fragments. Seek shelter. Approximately 2,000 feet and descending. May God have mercy. Then the stations started going offline. One by one, just static. I kept my eyes on the road, but I could feel it. The pressure building. My ears popped every few minutes like I was in a plane. The air in the car felt thick, hard to pull into my lungs. I looked in my rearview mirror and saw the horizon, except it wasn't the horizon anymore. It was a dark line, getting lower, getting closer. The sky meeting the earth, swallowing everything in between. A semi-truck ahead of me swerved off the road and crashed into a ditch. I didn't stop. I couldn't. I had to get to Emma. My car started making a weird rattling sound around the time I passed the Pinewood exit. Then the engine coughed, sputtered, and died. I coasted to the shoulder and tried to restart it. Nothing. The pressure must have done something to the engine, flooded it, or crushed something vital. I was stuck. Pinewood was a tiny town, barely a dot on the map. But I could see lights about half a mile down the exit ramp. Lights meant people. Shelter. I grabbed my bag and started walking. The pressure was unbearable now. Every step felt like moving through water. My nose started bleeding. I wiped it away and kept going. I found them in a church basement. The heavy wooden door was open, and I followed the sound of voices down a narrow staircase into a large room lined with old pews and storage boxes. There were 5 of them, an elderly priest with kind eyes and shaking hands, a woman about my age, holding a little boy close, a guy in a mechanic's jumpsuit covered in grease, a college-age girl with her phone out, the screen glowing in the dim light. "Another one," the mechanic said when he saw me. "Get down here and close the door." I did. The moment the door shut, the pressure eased slightly. Not much, but enough to breathe. "I'm Owen," the mechanic said. "That's Father Tom, Lisa and her son Jordan, and Rachel." "Tyler," I said. "My car died on the highway." "Everything's dying," Rachel said. She wasn't looking at me, just at her phone. "I've been documenting it. Started recording when the alerts came. Got footage of the sky coming down." "It's the end times," Father Tom said quietly. "The dead in Christ shall rise first, then we which are alive and remain." "It's not the end times, Father," Owen said, but there was no conviction in his voice. "It's just something's wrong with the atmosphere, some kind of pressure change." "You mean the sky is falling?" Lisa said. She had her hand over Jordan's ears, but the boy wasn't fooled. His eyes were wide and terrified. "Yeah," Owen admitted. "The sky is falling." We sat in that basement for hours. The pressure kept building. My head pounded. Jordan's nose started bleeding, then Lisa's. We all sat there bleeding and trying not to panic. The sound started around what I guessed was noon. A low hum, so deep I felt it in my bones rather than heard it. The building shook. Dust rained down from the ceiling. "I'm going to check," Owen said. "Don't!" Lisa begged. But he went anyway. Up the stairs, the door creaking open. A long silence, then footsteps running back down, fast and heavy. Owen's face was grey. "It's at the rooftops," he said. "You can see it through the windows. Looks like dark glass pressing down. The church steeple is..." He swallowed hard. "It's being crushed, folding in on itself." The humming got louder. We heard crashing from outside. Buildings collapsing, glass shattering, and screaming. People who'd stayed outside, caught between the earth and the falling sky. Jordan started crying. Lisa held him and sang something soft. A lullaby I didn't know. Father Tom prayed. Rachel filmed everything until her battery died. Owen and I just sat there, waiting to be crushed. The church windows exploded. We all flinched, covering our heads as the basement filled with the sound of breaking glass. Then the roof started to crack. Long, groaning sounds like the building was dying. "This is it," Rachel whispered. I thought about Emma. Hoped she'd found shelter. Hoped she was okay. I'd never make it to her now. Father Tom's voice rose, steady and strong despite the fear in his eyes. "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." The ceiling creaked, bowed. I closed my eyes. And then it stopped. The pressure stopped building. The humming changed, became steady instead of rising. We sat in the darkness, breathing in shallow gasps, waiting for the final collapse. It never came. After what felt like forever, Owen stood up. "I'm checking again." This time I went with him. We climbed the stairs slowly, carefully. The door was harder to open now, warped in its frame. We had to force it. The church was destroyed. The beautiful stained glass windows were gone, the pews smashed, but the wall still stood, and through the broken windows, we could see outside. The sky had stopped falling, but the world had changed. Everything was compressed, flattened. Buildings that had been 2 or 3 stories tall were now crushed down to single floors. Cars were flattened like aluminum cans, and above it all, maybe 8 feet off the ground, was a solid, dark surface, smooth and featureless, like someone had put a ceiling over the entire world. "Oh God," Owen breathed. We stepped outside, had to duck through the doorway. The air was thick, hard to breathe, but breathable. The sky, that dark ceiling, pressed down everywhere we looked. You couldn't stand up straight. You had to crouch, duck, move like you were in a crawl space. And it was dark, completely dark. The sun was somewhere above that ceiling, blocked out. The only light came from fires burning in the wreckage and a few emergency lights still running on backup power. Bodies lay in the street, people who couldn't reach shelter, crushed flat. I turned away and threw up. We explored what was left of Pinewood. Other survivors were emerging from basements and underground spaces. I counted maybe 30 people total. Everyone moved slowly, hunched over, speaking in whispers, like raising our voices might bring the sky down again. Someone had a battery-powered radio. We gathered around it, desperate for information. The emergency broadcast said it was global. Every country, every continent. Major cities were completely destroyed. Millions dead. The rural areas with more basements and underground spaces had better survival rates, but not much better. The government was gone. No coordinated response. No rescue coming. The broadcast ended mid-sentence, just cut to static. We waited for it to come back. It never did. I knew I had to keep moving, had to get to Fairview, find Emma. But looking at the compressed world, I didn't know how. You couldn't drive. You could barely walk upright. I went back to the church basement to get my bag. The others were coming up, seeing the new reality for the first time. Lisa's face crumpled when she saw the dark ceiling, but she held it together for Jordan. "I'm leaving," I told them. "My sister's in Fairview. I have to know if she's okay." "You can't," Lisa said. "Tyler, it's safer here, with more people." "I have to." Owen gave me a flashlight and some supplies he'd scrounged from the church kitchen. Rachel gave me her phone. "There are photos on here," she said, "of the sky falling. I want someone to remember what it looked like when it was still up there." Father Tom blessed me. His hands trembled as he made the sign of the cross. Jordan, that sweet kid, gave me a drawing he'd made on the back of a church bulletin. Stick figures in a basement, all of us together. "Come back," he said. "I'll try," I told him, and meant it. I stepped out into the dark, compressed world and started walking toward Fairview. The journey was a nightmare. I had to crawl in places where the ceiling was too low, pulled myself over rubble and crushed cars. The flashlight beam cutting through the darkness showed me things I wish I could forget. Bodies. Lots of bodies. I met other survivors. Some tried to rob me. Most just stared with empty eyes and didn't speak. The world had broken them. I couldn't tell time anymore. No sun, no way to know if it was day or night. I walked until I was exhausted, slept in the wreckage, walked again. Days blurred together. I found a bicycle somehow still intact, wedged under a collapsed awning. I could ride it hunched over, and it made the journey faster. The wheels crunched over glass and debris. The world was silent, except for my breathing and that constant low hum. Always there, always reminding me that the sky was 8 feet above my head and might decide to fall further at any moment. Sometimes I saw people who'd gone mad, wandering in the darkness, talking to themselves, or screaming at the ceiling. I avoided them. Survival meant staying focused, staying sane. The ceiling shifted sometimes, groaned and settled. In those moments, I'd freeze, certain it was about to crush me. But it always held at 8 feet, 8 feet of space between the ground and oblivion. When I finally reached Fairview, my heart sank. The town was built on hills, and hills don't have flat ground for basements. Most of the buildings were completely flattened, just rubble under the dark ceiling. I found Emma's apartment building, or what was left of it, a pile of brick and concrete crushed down to nothing. I searched it anyway, pulled at the rubble with bleeding hands, calling her name. The flashlight showed me broken furniture, shattered glass, but no people. The basement was flooded and collapsed. I stood there in ankle-deep water, shining my light over the wreckage, and knew she was gone. I'd come all this way, survived the impossible, and she was dead. I sat down in the water and cried, just broke down and sobbed like a child. Because what was the point? What was the point of surviving in a world like this, crushed under a dark sky? Everyone I loved dead. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. Then I heard something, a voice, distant and muffled. "Hello? Is someone there?" I scrambled to my feet, shining the flashlight around wildly. "Emma! Tyler!" Her voice was coming from deeper in the ruins. I followed it, crawling over collapsed walls, through gaps in the rubble. And there, in the entrance to the parking garage, I found her, Emma, alive, filthy and thin and exhausted, but alive. We grabbed each other and held on like we'd never let go. I was crying again, but this time from relief so intense it hurt. "I thought you were dead," I sobbed into her shoulder. "The garage," she said. "We went to the parking garage when the alert started. Underground. It saved us." Us. I looked past her and saw more faces in the darkness. 12 people, maybe more, living in the underground parking structure. Emma and I sat in the garage and talked. I told her about Leland, about the church group, about the journey here. She told me about the sky falling, how they'd huddled in the garage and listened to the world collapsing above them. "We can't stay here forever," she said. "The air's getting thinner. People are getting sick. I think the ceiling is doing something to the atmosphere, poisoning it or depleting it. So what do we do?" "Go deeper," she said. "I've heard rumors on the radio before the broadcast stopped. People finding caves, old mines, subway tunnels in other cities, places deep underground where the air is still good." "You want to become mole people," I said. "I want to survive." She looked at me with those determined eyes I knew so well. There are cave systems in the mountains, about 50 miles from here. If we can make it there, we might have a chance. I thought about it. 50 miles of crawling through darkness. But what choice did we have? Stay here and slowly suffocate? The surface world was dead. We had to go down. Okay, I said, let's do it. We gathered the survivors from the garage. 15 people willing to make the journey. The others were too sick, too scared, or had just given up. We shared out the supplies we had, wished them well, and set out into the dark. The journey to the mountains was worse than anything I'd experienced. We moved slowly, the whole group crawling and crouching through the ruins. Some people didn't make it, gave up, died from exhaustion or injury or just the crushing weight of despair. But we kept going. Emma led the way with the determination that had always defined her. I followed, and the others followed me. It took a week, I think. Hard to know for sure. But we made it to the foothills and then up into the mountains themselves. The terrain was treacherous. You try climbing a mountain when you can't stand up straight. We found the cave entrance on what I'm calling Day 8, a dark hole in the mountainside leading down into the earth. Emma went first, always brave. Her flashlight beam disappeared into the darkness, then came back up. "It opens up inside," she called. "You can stand." One by one, we descended into the cave. And when I stood up, really stood up straight for the first time in over a week, I almost cried again. The simple act of standing, of having space above my head. I took one last look at the surface world before I went down. The dark ceiling pressing against the mountainside, the ruins of everything humanity had built, our cities, our roads, our civilization. All of it crushed under 8 feet of space. Then I followed Emma into the depths. We're still down here, still descending, looking for the deepest chambers where we might build something like a life. We have water from underground springs. We found some kind of pale fish in one of the deeper pools, blind things that have never seen the sun. We eat them raw. The others are talking about settling here, making this our home. Emma thinks we should keep going deeper, find the absolute bottom of the earth where we'll be safe. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't think there is one. Sometimes in the quiet, I can still hear it, that low hum from the surface, a reminder that the sky fell and we fell with it, down into the dark where maybe, just maybe, we can learn to live again. But I don't think we'll ever stop hearing that hum or forget the feeling of the world pressing down on us. Some things you don't survive. You just endure, and we're enduring. One day at a time, one step deeper into the earth. If you're reading this, I don't know how it got to you. Maybe there are still communications working somewhere. Maybe someone found a way to broadcast from underground. Or maybe this is all just me screaming into the void, hoping someone hears. All I know is this. If you get an alert about atmospheric failure, don't wait. Don't go outside to look. Don't think you have time. Get underground immediately, as deep as you can go. Because when the sky falls, it falls fast. And there's nowhere to run but down.